Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Uncomfortable Truth, episode 25. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Massive shout out to the sponsors, Cop It and Check It. Cop It being the premier retailer of exclusive footwear and clothing, and to Check It, the fast sneaker authenticator app, which will be available and is available even on Apple and Google Play. So, yeah. Guys, check out those particular shops and particular apps because they're bloody brilliant. Sam, how are you?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm doing quite well. Like
upbeat Sam. Upbeat Sam. That's always good.
Like sometimes you think that for footballers there, the magic is gone, and then you just watch certain matches, like Champions League stuff like that. And you're just like, nah, football can't be dead. Like there's always like a certain excitement you get with football that is just never gonna really die, and I love it.
Well, there has been some really good games. The United game has been very good. Entertaining, I think, from a neutral perspective, entertaining. For a Man United fan, probably want to question a number of things, but it's probably a reason as to why we're having the subject which is today, which is Erik ten Haag. It's been reported that he is going to be signing a 4-year deal with Manchester United. It's something that is generating a lot of interest amongst the media, amongst fans. There's been lots of discussions on, not only the Twitter spaces, on YouTube, everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. And it is it's the uncomfortable truth. So we want to get deep into topics. We're not necessarily going to be going surface level. We want to actually just talk hard truths in terms of, look, is this actually going to work here? Fundamentally, and we're gonna be exploring that. But first of all, unless for those who have actually been living under a rock and don't know much about Erik ten Hag, this is the current Ajax manager. This is a guy who has high stock. When it comes to what he has done in terms of those who don't necessarily know much about his career, he has had a fairly, let's say, impressive career in terms of what he has done with teams. He's taken basic teams like the Go Ahead Eagles in Holland to got them promoted. He's gone to Bayern second team to basically effectively try and be an understudy to Pep Guardiola. And probably where his stock has risen a lot at this point is Utrecht, where essentially is a mid-table team that I'm pretty sure not many people know too much about, but he made that team particularly relevant. He got them from 5th to 4th, and it's from the work that he did at that club that got Ajax's attention on him. And then obviously since then, I think it was January 2018, he joined Ajax. Yeah, and then the rest is history. And with Erik ten Hag, he's somebody, by the way, just I know I did this for Donny, but I feel like I need to. This is the Dutch support at this point. But for a lot of football fans, he is synonymous with that 2018-2019 season with Ajax, which is the now probably overly talked about Champions League run that he did to semi-finals, where literally just the last kick of the game were cruelly denied by Spurs and Lucas Moura. Yeah. So it was a team that really captured the imagination. I think pure football fans who love Ajax, because Ajax is a classic club. he had essentially, to a lot of people, made Ajax relevant again. And this is where perhaps his stock has risen. For some people, perhaps overrated now because of that particular season. But for a lot of fans, that's where the excitement's come in. They've seen what type of football that he presents, and he's also done it again. Like I know this year in the Champions League they didn't get as far as perhaps a lot of people were thinking in terms of their Champions League run was very impressive. But he's done it again, which is probably why there is the interest for Manchester United. There is that stock. That's probably why other managers such as Pochettino have been a little bit quieter. Might possibly be that Pochettino doesn't even want it. But there is a fascination with Ten Hag. I'm not going to be one of those people and say, I never rated him. So Ten Hag has always been someone I've been quite interested in. Have I been interested in his league career? Probably not, because I think to be a competitive manager for Ajax is kind of, for me, you should be doing that. It's Ajax. Ajax, PSV, Feyenoord, these teams should be minimum, top three.
Yes.
Now, what for me, that's really impressed me is actually his European pedigree. So yes, I am looking at that Champions League semi-final run. I am looking at what he did during this season in the Champions League, especially when it came to the demolition of Borussia Dortmund and teams like that. The fact that he has transformed a number of players who, don't get me wrong, they're good footballers, but Sebastian Haller, who was brilliant at Frankfurt, brilliant with Jovic, goes to West Ham, plays in a different way, admittedly, but wasn't the same player. That was it, £40 million he cost West Ham. He looked like a flop.
Yeah.
But then he goes to Ajax, and this guy is playing out of his skin. The way that he was playing in Champions League, he was scoring as many goals as Lewandowski. And let's be real about it. It doesn't matter how fancy this guy is, or he's getting goals, and goals win games, and that's what you need from your striker. He enabled that. He's been able to transition a lot of players and make them look really, really good. And he has been rebuilding squads, but that's just kind of a general overview in terms of what we're seeing. What are your thoughts, first of all, on the rumours? Because it isn't definitive. It's just widely reported that that's going to happen. Are you excited over Ten Hag? Are you thinking Man United have perhaps missed a trick with a different manager, or do you think it's just another manager, different style? Here we go again, and let's end his career.
For me, I think first things first, it is going to be different because you are seeing some changes in terms of like the backroom staff. We're seeing John Mamerto's now in. You can't, and so far, he has been very important for the appointments of Ragnick as a consultant, and also Ten Hag as a manager. We can't just knock that, even though he might not have the experience and the high level of attributes. We can't diss what he's done so far. So I think there will be some change in how the club is run. However, I'm not too sure on him as a manager going to the Premier League, because it's happened before where a certain Ajax manager has done really well at Ajax, and then he comes to the Premier League and he looks atrocious. Like he can't do anything, and his career has gone downhill ever since. If those of you don't know, Frank de Boer was an amazing manager at Ajax. Everyone thought this was the next big thing, and then he comes to Premier League and absolutely flops. And like in general, the Dutch football has not, like, no matter if it's like Frank de Boer or Louis van Gaal, it hasn't been able to somehow settle in the Premier League too well, which is what I'm really concerned about. And because people have been able to see like the German gegenpress and what Klopp has brought in, and Tuchel has brought in his style as well. We've had like some of like the old school kind of managers. We've had like Wenger's quite free flowing football. We've had Pep's tiki taka a bit like changed up, but it's still Pep's football. We've had like these kind of managers come in and show what they're about from Italy as well. Like all these different type of managers, but whenever Dutch manager has seemed to come in, it hasn't worked out. Maybe it could be to a really big mismatch between the actual between the style of football and the league, because the league is quite physical and quite fast paced, so you don't have the liberties of what you get in the Eredivisie. So I'm just unsure about really more of just his style of football adapting. Maybe he might change it. Maybe he might be a bit too stubborn and stick to it. I don't know, but I'm just worried about how he's going to be able to establish himself in the Premier League.
Yeah,
personally.
guys. We have, as always, StreamYard links available that are in the live chats as we speak. Call in and have your say if you feel you have any opinions on Ten Hag's imminent appointment, or perhaps just are you thinking quite positively about this? Are you thinking quite negatively? What are your views? Do you rate Ten Hag? Is he the best thing since the spread? Is he actually going to come in and really disrupt what is now this Pep Klopp rivalry that we're now starting to see? One of the big things that I want to address first when it comes to this supposed appointment is this whole discussion around the backroom changes at Manchester United. Manchester United, for many years, have been branded as this commercial club. They've appointed John Murtough, who's the director of football, Dan Fletcher as a technical director, and they've now got a structure in place from a footballing point of view. Now, Ed Woodward has since gone. A large portion of blame was put onto him, that he wanted to basically control everything. I kind of feel, yes, he was part of the problem, but I feel like he's also been scapegoated. Now, for me, this Ralf Rangnick appointment, albeit I feel very backward, because why you would bring in a guy who quite clearly was never ever going to be a manager to run a team, I don't know. Maybe it was short-term pain for long-term game in terms of really seeing what the team can do, seeing if they can do this high press. And obviously he's going to go into this consultancy role for a number of years. And if it's, if the Ten Hag project, if you want to call it that, goes well, Rangnick will be there behind the scenes as this consultant. Now, for me, this is where I've been quite skeptical, and I've been on the Twitter Spaces speaking to a number of people on here, where I'm quite cynical, and I think I even went one step further in saying, at this point, I'm writing Ten Hag's obituary. That is one of the things that I've put on there. And the reason being, I really rate Ten Hag. I think he's a fantastic coach. I really do. I think in terms of world football, he's definitely up there. Manchester United are very lucky to even convince a manager who has a high profile at this point. He's got a very good profile about him. Don't forget, before the Xavi appointment, Barcelona were very, very keen on looking at him. I have no doubts that if Pep Guardiola ever left Man City, this would be a coach that would be considered. I'm sure Bayern Munich would consider this guy. So he quite clearly has some clout. Yeah. Going to Manchester United, is that going to be basically him delaying his career, his managerial career for a number of years, because it hasn't worked like it has with a number of very good coaches. They may not be the classic Man United coaches, but they're still good footballing coaches who have great pedigree. Don't forget, we had Louis van Gaal. The Dutch Revolution was supposed to be him. And look how that worked out. Now, for me, the proof is going to be in the pudding when it comes to transfers. And we will talk later on about incomings and outgoings, and it'll be really good actually to get some fan engagement, because this has been quite a popular thing when it comes to who do you want out the club, who do you think is going to come in, because I think a bit of dreaming sort of comes into this case where I think certain players want to they want certain players to go, but I think the proof's going to be in the pudding there. Are we going to see Ten Hag players, or are we going to see what Manchester United feel is their players, or commercially more viable players? Because we've seen this before. We've seen it under well, arguments will be about Moyes, but certainly we've seen it with Van Gaal. We've seen it with Mourinho. You could even say about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and most recently the Ronaldo signing. But I'm not going to focus too much on that at this point. If we start to see his types of players, then I might be more inclined to accept that this project is genuine. There is a bit of football interest in this one. If you're going to start seeing players that don't fit this Ten Hag style of football, and we know his style of football, and again, we will actually shortly to be talking about his style, then what is the point? I've never understood why, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who quite clearly wanted attacking fullbacks, and searches high and wide for this right back.
Yep. How many players? He said scouted over 100.
Scouted 800 right backs. So I don't even realise there was that many in professional football. But I think of looking at Royal Rovers or something like that. But and then you get Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who, by all accounts, is not the greatest attacking fullback. Now we can give him all the reasons and excuses why. My own eyes can tell me when he gets further up the pitch, it's pretty sporadic in terms of how he attacks. So clearly the scouting wasn't there, because I could pick out several other attacking right back. I'd probably find you academy players. Even Laird is probably more of an attacking right back than Aaron Ramsdale. Is he better footballer? No, but he's certainly more attack minded. And if that's the style of play you want to implement, then you have to implement that. So for me, that's vital, absolutely vital. But the structure is key. I'm not so convinced that Ralph Rangnick, who's been coming in as a consultant, will have any say with the first team. I think whoever believes that, I think it's a nice notion, but they're being naive. That's going to be with John Murtough, and that's going to be with Dan Fletcher. Matt Judges is still going to be a chief negotiator, and with Richard Arnold still going to be the CEO. There is still going to be that layer upon layer upon layer of structure. For me, it feels like the same red tape. To me, it still feels like the same bureaucracy is going to come in when it comes to sign off. Instead of Ed Woodward, you've got Richard Arnold now. You still got the same people. If anything, we've added a layer, because now you've got, before it was Matt Judges, then Ed Woodward. Now it's Matt Judges, then John Murtough, now Richard Arnold. So we've added another layer of bureaucracy, as far as I can see, in terms of how Manchester United have always behaved. Now, people come and maybe counter and say, well, what about Ronaldo? We did that deal in no time at all. Well, just to put it bluntly, when you're told that you can make over £300 million just like that from signing a player for less than £15 million, you're not going to think about it. You're going to do it if you're a businessman. So that's my answer to that one, and I'm moving on. But that is the issue for me. But let's talk about his team. So it's been rumored in terms of, if everything is accepted, we pay Ajax their $2 million clause. He will be, Ten Hag will be looking to bring his assistant, and it's been widely reported that the assistant will be Mitchell van der Gaag. And that's his trusted assistant. So again, that's vitally important that he gets his men in. I don't want to see this concoction where, what we've seen before with Michael Carrick is just there, and there's no explanation as to why he's there. Well, Mike Phelan was brought in via Ollie, so I'm not gonna criticize that. Ollie obviously wanted someone who knew the club inside out and had a way of playing. I'm not going to criticize that, but not Dan Fletcher, Michael Carrick was with Mourinho, so was McKenna. So it felt like those people had to stay because they were just ex-United. Well, certainly Carrick was ex-United. I actually genuinely want to see some smart moves being done here. So if Ten Hag has his own team, there are some rumours about a lot of ex-United interest in terms of quite recently reported Rennie Millerstein. Obviously, he was a part of Fergie's backroom staff. Is still quite widely loved in terms of fans. I think there's a few fans that would happily have him back. So there's that Dutch connection there. Obviously, there's the Man United connection there. He's brought success. There is coaches like Robin van Persie, who is working with the youth at this moment in time. That seems to be a bit more problematic in terms of moving family. He's got his son who's in the academy at this moment in time. He's got his daughter who's is an up and coming show jumper in the Netherlands. So there's a lot of things to consider there. I'm sure if Man United pay the right fee, that will be sorted. But there's a lot of things to consider. There was even talks of Jaap Stam. His name has been thrown hat. I'm sure it's lazy journalism at this point because they're just gone, who's Dutch, who's got the United connections. But he has expressed an interest if the role is right. So you never know. If there was maybe we need a defensive coach. Maybe for the sake of Harry Maguire and people like that Jaap Stam should perhaps come in. But it only depends if it fits in with what Ten Hag is about. Because Ten Hag has been very good defensively, and I said we'll touch upon that in his styles. Actually after this particular segment. So there is that. One name that I don't think that is probably going to come in now is Steve McLaren. Obviously, again, one of Fergie's assistant managers in the infamous '99 season. He's done a whole host of things. Steve McLaren. He is a very good coach. I know perhaps in terms of popularity, it's not up there because of his managerial side of it. But in terms of his coaching career, he's actually been very, very good in that respect. But that seems to be a no-go. What are your thoughts in terms of the backroom staff? Do you think it should be kind of exist in terms of what Rangnick's got now, and there's that continuity, or just get in what Ten Hag wants and be done with it?
So the way I see it is we need to have an idea of, because we can't just be thinking Ten Hag, because what could happen is that Ten Hag comes 2 seasons, he fails and he's out, and we're left with all his staff. But then we can't go the other way where we bring in all our staff and it's like, Ten Hag these guys don't know Dutch football. They can't implement what he wants in any of the capacity. So what I think we need to do is we need to have an idea of, considering we've now got a Dutch manager that's going to do the total football, we're going to have to kind of keep going with total football for a while and keep going with this Dutch style of football, even if we sack him or not.
But is it really total football? I know he's been an understudy to Pep, but we'll talk about his style in further detail, Sam. So let me just I'll let you finish.
No, that's fine. But I feel like we need to actually have an idea of what we're going to do post him. So it's going to have to keep going forward post him, and we're going to have to bring in the managers, the coaches, the medical staff, everything that suits his style of play. So, for example, don't bring a medical staff whose main experience is with defensive football, because maybe he doesn't know how to handle such players that have to play a high intensity style of play. We each have a consistency in what we're doing and how we're going to go forward post him in general. So I think we need to find a good balance between getting the Dutch managers and also getting maybe some people that know the club as well. Maybe looking, and maybe not just looking at all the old people, all the past, because that's a really big problem United has had, is that we hang on to the past way too much. Everything always has to be, bring back this, bring back that. Even with the Oli thing and him versus PSG is always they're always making references to 99 and stuff like that, and trying to be bring back the Fergie days. And I think the attachment to that could be the whole detriment to the whole system.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because you do have cases where you have coaches who have been long-standing in clubs. So case in point, you've got Brian Kidd. at
Mm.
at Man City. He's formerly at United, just synonymous with Manchester as a whole. But
Mm.
he didn't come in under Pep. He was there before with previous managers.
Yeah.
Now he's stayed under Pep. Is he as integral? Don't know. But the fact is that, he is there. He is there. So that is the thing. So for me, that isn't that is important. I don't think it's the be all and end all if you do have someone with that history.
Mm. Uh, yeah, like it's not just like I'm saying just like don't get someone just for the sake of history. Obviously, if someone's still a good
Mm,
like person at their job, you can get them, but I just don't want to get like someone for the sake of it. So like for example, like don't bring in like we're not now gonna bring in Alex Ferguson out of retirement purely because he was a United person. Like if they're not up to it anymore, they're not up to it. I feel like sometimes this club goes on this whole thing of like, oh, we're trying to recreate something or trying to like run it back, and it's just
mm,
like no. And like you always see like even with like Maguire, there's all these comparisons with like him and Rio, and like he's the new Rio, he's the Rio replacement, all this nonsense about that, like ball play and stuff like that. I feel like we just need to somehow find a way to just find a good balance between trying to keep a club identity and also trying to like go with this new Dutch style of football.
yeah,
It's
guys,
just my thing.
don't forget to as I said, share and like this. We're trying to build this ministry community, and your likes and your subscriptions here, they will help us get more and more content on there. I know that there's some big future series coming up. I know Z in particular has got some stuff lined up, so be on the lookout for that. Um, just going back onto the Ten Hag subjects, the styles of football, you touched upon it. I think I slightly disagree with this whole total football
Mm.
premise. I don't think he quite does that for me. I think from what I've seen, he's very much a manager that generally likes a quite a sort of defensive style. If
Yeah.
people need a formation to familiarize themselves with, generally a 4-3-3. But one thing that I would say in terms of how he likes his football to be done, and this is where perhaps Ralph Rangnick, his consultancy has perhaps made it more in favor of Ten Hag, is this high pressing, quick ball retention,
Mm.
and transition. So, in terms of how they would play, there will be counter-attacking. It's a very defensive setup that leads to a lot of hard counter-attacks that are done. And
Mm.
ultimately, there is that continuity in terms of what was trying to be achieved with Rangnick to Ten Hag. I think there is probably more of a continuity there than there would have been a continuity under Pochettino, in my opinion. So, as I said, the pressing is the thing. I don't think
Yeah.
we should get too hepped up on formations and systems. Ten Hag
Mm.
has, he can interchange it into a 4-2-3-1.
Mm.
With his prior club at Utrecht, diamond formations were used. I don't think that will necessarily be used in the Prem. But the two prior formations of the 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, That'll interchange, and I'm sure that'll be the way. But the main thing that people perhaps need to focus on is and this is very much a Dutch way of looking at it. It's no different to Louis van Gaal in terms of it's the action in possession. What do you do with the ball when you
Mm.
have possession? What do you do with the ball when you don't have possession? And it's the transition between that. That's the key thing here. That's one thing that I would probably say that Manchester United have probably been traditionally very good at, and that's counter-attacking football.
Yeah.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, that's probably one of his biggest strengths. He made United, I would say, one of the best counter-attacking teams in the world, because you
Mm.
look at the teams that they were doing it against, and they were doing it against some really decent teams. And Ralph Rangnick is trying to do that, but more from a high, you're trying to do it more higher up the pitch, whereas Solskjaer would probably lure teams into a false sense of security. Let's get that whole team in our half, and then just hit them hard with the three attacking players. So yeah, that for me was probably the thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works from a fitness point of view, from the manager. We've got an addition here. You've seen this guy enough. He likes to pretend his name's Mr. Composure, but it's Ministry Z really. There's no composure to this guy. He's vexed. I can tell he's vexed already. He's licking his lips. He's ready to attack.
How's it going, lads? I'll be honest. It's been alright, man. It's actually good to be back. This is my first stream in a while, to be honest. First time I jumped on a stream in a while. So I hope everyone's in good health and everyone's doing well. That's the most important thing. Good win yesterday. Great win. Especially with both Spurs, the red and white versions, both of them bottling. So
yeah, the thing with that is ultimately is limping, isn't it? It's limping to that fourth after being down and out. According to a lot of people, you found yourself all of a sudden 2 wins away from being fourth again, which I'm not sure if I like it. I'm torn. For any new manager, you kind of want him to be in that Premier competition, but at the same time, I kind of just want to be out of Europe all completely. And I feel like United just with that win have kind of put themselves in purgatory at this point.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I totally understand. I think the issues that we have is if we get fourth place, do the board look at it and think, oh, maybe this team isn't as bad, and then afterwards, are a bit off with the recruitment side of things. But yeah, in relation to Ten Hag, I'll be honest with you lot, he wasn't my number one choice. Everyone's
no, he was not.
He wasn't my number one choice. But I don't know. To be honest, I don't know much about him. When I'm looking at the whole circumstances at Manchester United, I'm seeing the change in terms of the structure, whether people want to, buy into it or not due to PTSD. We have to. This is the first time we've got structure, and anyone who knows, Jinky, you've kept me well educated about John Murtough, and people need to understand this is a man who's actually open to having people in and around him that are smarter than him. So for me, it's a good thing to actually have someone in that kind of position, rather with no ego, compared to Ed, who had a massive chip on his shoulder, massive ego and everything. So it's good to have that kind of change, and also the deputies coming in. Also, we still got Matt Judge in there, which is a bit concerning, but I've already given him his credit in terms of how he's been doing negotiations. Obviously, we saw he was reluctant to buy Jadon Sancho for the 120 mil. And then afterwards, we ended up getting Jadon Sancho for 75 mil. And Boubacar Kamara, for example, there's reports that he might already be a Manchester United player. So that's another plus. So I'm looking at those kind of things, those small things. And say, for example, we even want to go for a Declan Rice, rather than after we end up getting Declan Rice for like 80 mil. I'm looking at those small things to see changes. People just always want to be against changes because they want to, obviously, like I said, it's the PTSD. And plus, people just want to run the agenda rather than looking at the obvious, if you get what I mean, lads.
Well, yeah. For me, I do see it as it's like a cycle, isn't it? Like we've gone from more, it is PTSD, Moyes to Van Gaal to Mourinho to Oli to Rangnick, and it just seems to be the same excuses, the same nonsense, where I'm just getting a bit bored of saying we need 4 or 5 players at the end of every season. Like, how the hell do you need 4 or 5 players at the end of every single season, like the last 10 years now? And this is the thing, we've been saying that for 10 years. So, my cynicism is the fact that, look, Ed Woodward was in charge. I know he's gone, but you look at all the appointments that have been made. Arnold was his guy. Murtough was his guy. Don't forget, Murtough had like a load of people leave him when he got appointed. So that's something. It feels like it's people that's still very Glazer friendly. And I get from a business point of view why you would do that. They're the bloody owners. Of course, you're going to have people who are going to be on your side. but are we going to see Matt Judge as well? In terms of, again, another Woodward guy. So these people are still there, and my biggest issue is when it comes to transfers. If these 3 or 4 signs are imperative, and look, let's be honest, when you look at the outgoings and in terms of the structure of the structure, we'll go back to talking about styles, and then we'll talk about how his style will fit into United, and then we'll talk about inbounds and outgoings. I know, Z, I know you've been very interested on the Twitter Spaces. We've discussed this to some great degree, but for me, Man United take too long when it comes to transfers. They always have done, always will do. The only one that he didn't was Ronaldo, and from a financial point of view and a commercial point of view, of course you're not going to dilly-dally around that. Just pay him what he needs. You're giving him £12 million for a transfer. You're getting £300 million back. It's just business sense. But Man United have always taken too long. They've always taken too long. And we've added another layer of bureaucracy in that. Now, Man United have been run as just a business, not a football club. So when I see another level of protection, it just seems to be like another week's delay, another 2 weeks.
I'm still
delay.
here, by the way, lads. Just taking off my camera because the little one's just running around. That's what.
No, that's all right. That's all right. But yeah. So that's my only concern. But to see, just if we just go back to the style, because one thing that I've seen with Ten Hag, and something that's very important to him, and this is obviously something that was very consistent with Rangnick. So there is that continuity there, and that's basically that discipline in possession and actually kind of using the ball in possession and winning that ball back quickly, which leads to sort of counter-attack and football. That is done in that 4-3-3 defensive style. One thing that I always find that's very interesting where Man United have struggled is that defensive midfielder. Now, yes, that could be that Boubacar Kamara, that could be Declan Rice, that they could be the guys that linchpin to supplement that football and that attack for Man United. But we don't have that in place, and that's a big worry. We have McTominay and Fred, who are literally, let's be honest, and I will call fans out here because I know it's not the popular opinion, they're the scapegoats of Manchester United.
Yeah,
like,
you got
obviously.
You got 2 8s playing in a double pivot. Like, just to touch on that,
it doesn't make sense.
I think what Manchester United need 2 midfielders in the summer. 100% we need 2 midfielders. Obviously, that's not just because of the outgoings, also because we need competent midfielders. And like I said, I've seen a lot of fans speak about Ghana, for example. I just personally think that this environment is not a safe space for Ghana. In terms of, he's doing well. He's in the championship. He's very physical. He's carrying himself well. He's been a part of some big performances. But you come to United where the mood is down, where the ambition of Cristiano Ronaldo makes a lot of players shrivel into a hole. And is it really motivating for the kid? No. How long is it before the kid ends up down tooling? Do you get what I mean?
But more important than that, see, and we've talked about this when it came to even more high profile signs, people like Jude Bellingham. These people will come in, so Ghana will come in, and there'll be that divide already. There'll be the fans that will literally gas him up to an unrealistic expectation because they've seen him. This guy can move a ball about. There's no doubts about it. He's a talented footballer, but they just put him on that level. Then you've got people who will just completely dismiss him and write him off because he came from Nottingham Forest, and that's been the highlight of his footballing career so far. So there are people that are ready to kill him, and then there's people who will just gas him up, and they'll do the whole YouTube comps and everything like that, and then he'll have 2 average performances, and those people that are gassing him up will start to kill him. And now these people, we know this. We know that these people look online. We see the essays from Rashford. We know that they look online because they wouldn't respond so much if that wasn't the case. Ghana's going to be no different, and he's even younger. So you're absolutely right. It's not a safe environment for this guy. We need the strongest of the strong to come in, who will just deflect that shit. Because unfortunately, I'm not saying the stadium fans per se, because I think the stadium fans generally as a whole are very supportive. Yeah, there was a whole booing of Pogba, this weekend, let's move on. But I'm talking about the social media fans, the online fans. They still look at this stuff.
But this is something I want to touch on as well, because we've got to. I'll put it down like this, right? We've got and I've gone to a lot of games this season, right? We'll put it down like this, right? The match day gone fans always look down on the, fans that are abroad, fans that are online. And yesterday, for example, the Paul Pogba situation is a clear example of these guys carrying out the same things that the people online and the people abroad do. Yeah. And it's a cycle. Like, I keep saying to people, I posted a Spider-Man meme. I don't know if anyone's seen this, but two Spider-Mans pointing at each other. And I said, this is our fan base. Yeah. When I'm looking at Ten Hag, right, already, I was just doing a little space before I came here, and already spoke about people saying Ten Hag out. They're against Ten Hag. And the guys, the ink's not even dry yet. The ink's not even dry yet.
He hasn't even signed it yet.
And I'm looking at our team, right? And I'm saying to them, I'm looking at our team, right? I'm saying, we definitely need a goalkeeper, a competent goalkeeper who's good on his feet and ready to come out, who can allow us to be comfortably play a higher line. We need two competent fullbacks. I said, really, we need two midfielders. And we definitely need another striker. I know even if Christie stays, we definitely need someone in addition to him. And as much as people don't want to talk about it, we need that wing. That wing position needs to be addressed, but no one wants to talk about it. So there's a lot that needs to be fixed up in this team, and people need to stop looking at this team based on this player's name and this player's CV, and rather look at it for what it is. We spent over $1 billion and we still got Juan Mata coming off the bench. Juan Mata was here in 2014. Are people not fucking getting on the drift? So give the manager some time. Let's support the structure. Let's get behind him. Let's stop having our itty-giddy battles over who we want to see out already, because I know certain people are already saying, no, look, Van der Beek survives, Ollie dies, and forget all of that. And for those people who are even saying, if he can't do what Ollie done, go away as well. Like, listen, let's all stand on one page and back the manager, back the club. Yeah. At the end of the day, I'll say this just to close off. Everything has changed at this club apart from who? Upstairs. And so why are they not the issue? But we want to choose when they're the issue. We're not actually picking at the issue. So right now, I'm willing to give them a chance because it's the first time they put a little structure in. But at the end of the day, I'm with the fans as well who have got the PTSD. But I'm not going to take it out on the players. I'm not going to take it out on the manager. And I think that's the direction we should move as a fan base.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah, I agree.
In terms of, because Z, and myself, we've mentioned Twitter Spaces. I said we do have a presence. I know we do ideally looking to do the show on a weekly basis, but we do have a presence on the Twitter Spaces. Feel free to follow myself, Jinky Knows, Doctor Who, Sam7, and even though it's on here as Mr. Composure, it is Ministry Z, if I'm correct.
Ministry Z. Yeah, I'm gonna change things. I've literally still got my technical self. I was actually meant to come on what's it called, but all my stuff is actually messed up. All my other network stuff is messed up, so I couldn't come on my proper setup.
So Ministry Z. You'll see him on Twitter, IG, myself again, Twitter and IG, and Sam also. And as I said, we're causing havoc. Coming up with the uncomfortable truths. But to be fair, especially with the Twitter Space community, I do want to say a big shout out to that, because there have been some really good debates. So actually, like I said, like a lot of people not necessarily sharing the same opinion, but actually being respectful, and that's what it's all about. It's all about sharing those opinions, and then come to some understanding of why we think what we think. So it's really, really good. And obviously the Ministry. Let's not forget the Ministry.
Yeah, guys.
I'm gonna
follow that one for a second. I'll see if I can jump back on. Yeah, just want to put the little one to bed quickly. Yeah,
that's fine.
Right.
Cheers,
Z.
Cheers.
But Z made a really good point in terms of goalkeepers, because one thing that when you look at Erik ten Hag is that he does like to play out from the back. And that doesn't just extend to the goalkeeper. That also, look at our centre backs and things that have been aimed at certain players and criticism is people who are able to play out the back. David De Gea is one of them. David De Gea, I think when you look at it statistically, eye test, whatever analysis poll you want to use,
is poor.
His distribution is not the best. He's a shot stopper. That is it.
Yeah.
So if Ten Hag is going to come in, there is that whole question mark. Dean Henderson, is he really that guy when it comes to distribution? Again, he's a very good shot stopper. But by the looks of things, he's on his way out. So we're going to have that replacement. Harry Maguire, and there is this long drawn debate of whether he's even a ball playing defender in the first place. I had a very interesting debate with someone about this quite recently. But one thing that I will say that I think every fan has seen, match day and online, or armchair fans, whatever you want to call them, is that he takes far too long on the ball. Now, if you've got Ten Hag, who is wanting a quick transition. Now, I'm not being funny. Even Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted a quick transition when it came to counter-attacking football. Rangnick, quick turnaround. Maguire seems to just take a little bit too long in bringing that ball up and doing anything with it. And what we know when it comes to beating the best teams or beating any team, especially in the Prem, is just using that ball quickly and breaking on them. He's not doing that. Whether he's disciplined enough to work out Ten Hag style is another thing, but that could be a potential issue there. I think players like Lindelof, I think, will be fine. I think technically he's very good in that respect. I think Eric Bailly is actually quite underrated when it comes to how he is on the ball. He gets injured far too long. That's Eric Bailly's issue. But in terms of how he uses the ball, he's actually, he's quite. I feel he's a bit more press resistant than people give him credit for. And then you've got the fullbacks. Well, he likes. One thing that I think is quite easily identified when it comes to Ten Hag football is his wide players. But his wide players, they like to go in. They like to drift in to allow the fullbacks to go in. So I think that whoever is a wide player, still at Manchester United is going to get a lot of success. I think it's very interesting that you got people like Ziyech, Neres, Antony's now he's the flavour of the month.
Tadic.
Tadic. I can't. We'll throw Tadic. I know I see him more as a cam, but you are right. He has done that role and he does drift in. But these players have had tremendous success. So I think if you're a Jadon Sancho, I think if you're a Alanga, I think. Well, I would even say Rashford, to be honest, but it depends on whether he mentally wants it still at Manchester United. But I think these players can have a bit of success there. I even will go one step further. And if we're going to do a 4-3-3, people talk about wingers and everything like that. I actually think Bruno Fernandes, there you go, here's the controversial opinion. I actually think Bruno Fernandes could do a wide position and come in a similar way to what perhaps Tadic does.
Yeah, Tadic. I agree.
We know his crossing abilities is good from wide if he needs to be wide. We know what he can do as a cam. So why not? Why not have a Sancho, Fernandes, and that number 9? Whether the Cristiano Ronaldo debate is going to be long drawn, whether he's surplus to requirements. But one thing that Ten Hag wants is that prominent number 9. That number 9 who can hold it, who can bring others into play, and this is where the wide players have had success, but is also a poacher and a finisher. When we know Ronaldo is definitely a poacher and finisher, we know Ronaldo can bring those players in. It's just whether Ronaldo wants to do that. Now, I think Ronaldo would want to do that if it was success, but at the same time, there is an element where I feel like the Ronaldo 2 or 3 years back is more about records now. Don't know. What are your thoughts?
So with the whole team in terms of ingoings and outgoings, because start at the back, 100% need a new keeper because you've got Henderson who's on his way out. David De Gea does not. Him on the ball is a danger to our club. Like I think yesterday they passed him back the ball. He had space and time, and he somehow just kicked it out. I think the distribution is just not good enough at all to be for a Ten Hag system. We're probably going to need at least 2 fullbacks because Wan-Bissaka's just not going to cut it. on the ball whatsoever. Dalot would be, I think, controversial opinions that Dalot could actually become quite good in. If you look at the way Ajax play, Daley Blind as a fullback, he doesn't always drift too far wide. He actually sometimes goes into the midfield and is mainly there for ball progression.
I need to stop you there. I'm not having any comparison between Dalot being successful because Daley Blind has done. Daley Blind, right, is a bloody good defender, a very smart footballer. One thing I cannot say about Dalot is his defensive qualities. I think it's very airy-fairy. Yes, he might be good going forward, but there's a lot to be desired when it comes to the defensive side. So I'm not having that comparison. I'm not. I will end the show right here, right now.
Honest to God, actually don't think he's good going forward. I honestly do not rate Dalot going forward. I rate him in the sense of his ball progression is good, but his actual end product is woeful. His end, like he'll get somewhere, but then he doesn't know what to do once he gets there. So I think like Ten Hag will obviously have him in a position where he's able to progress the ball and not having to have so much responsibility and so much choice as to who he gives it off to. Granted, I still think he should be a bench player. Luke Shaw needs to go. I like that would be one of the first people I would want out, not because of his ability, not because of anything like that. The guy is just a liability. Too many injuries. He's been here 8 years, injury after injury. His season is even done now because he's injured. Like we can't count on him. We can't count on him to literally come on and actually keep playing the way he does. Like we can't. And then
I think we need to. I think this is where we need to be careful as a fan base, because I get where you're going, and I don't disagree with your comments. But realistically, you should only really have maximum of 4 signings. We can't just go in and have 6, 7 first team signings, because you've just completely disrupted that team. And one thing that this fan base won't accept is a write-off season. Because if you have 7 first teamers in, they're not going to know how each other plays. We are going to get battered by probably every team for the first 2-3 months, which then puts us out of certainly the league title contention. If you're a fan that still wants that, top 4 will look pretty much in jeopardy because you'll be mid-table, possibly even less than that. And that's the worry. It has to be incremental, and to completely change our backline is going to be complete disaster. It'll just be absolute disaster.
Oh yeah, this will all have to be over time, obviously, but there's gonna need to be a lot of changes, and even with centre backs. I honestly Harry Maguire. Everyone, I'm not going to speak too much on him because everyone knows that he's just not good. He's not good enough. I feel like I'm just going to be saying what everyone has been saying for the past season, that the guy, even recently, the guy is now becoming a danger to his own teammates. Is absolutely insane. And then Lindelof, I think I'm going to say this and people aren't going to like this. Lindelof is just as bad to me. I think because Maguire's just having a bad season, even by his standards, people have decided to now think that Lindelof is this great centre back that we've always needed, and he should have been the one. Lindelof has had lots of issues with his aggression, his being bullied. That's the main thing I've seen. Him being bullied in the air and on the ground has been a major issue. And we can't have that, because the way Ten Hag plays, at times, literally, the back line is super exposed. I've seen it happen with Ten Hag. You need 2 defenders that can actually just quickly snap up the ball, and that's it. And Lindelof is not that kind of defender. He doesn't take initiative. He always waits too long and he backs off. And I don't think we can have that. This is where that defensive midfielder who reads the danger, and that's the key thing. So I know you're probably going to go to the midfield, and I know Zio talked about getting 2 midfielders in, but as I call them, scapegoats of McTominay and Fred.
where people just constantly slate these guys. And for me, McTominay is just a victim of it. Well, let's be honest. I will tell you this one for free. McTominay will still be there under Ten Hag. If Ten Hag comes in, McTominay will be there. And it wouldn't even surprise me if he even still continues starting a number of games. Because one thing that I've seen with McTominay is that every manager likes him. Why? Because he does exactly what the manager asks. Is he the best? I'm not talking about on the training pitch and this, that, and the other. He quite clearly does. And Fred shows that same commitment. You know what the problem with McTominay is? He's a squad player who's been thrown into a situation where he's needed in the first team. He's a squad player, and I personally believe he's a good enough squad player. He's got the right attitude. He does do a job, whether people like it or not. And in terms of that aggression and things like that, he does have that. He does have it, and he does have that ability to make a difference for United because he chips in the goals. He does have key performances. But this is the problem. Everyone wants to look at him from a first team, we're going to win the league point of view.
Yeah.
He's not the guy to necessarily do that, but he's definitely a guy to come in and do a job because he's come in and done a job a number of times before.
Yeah. With McTominay, so let me give a good example of where I would put him. If we had like a fully built squad, where his position would be the equivalent of probably like a Naby Keita, where you're not really expected to start games. Probably won't even make subs that often, but you have your role to play in certain games.
Yeah.
So for example, like in certain teams, like you know how he performs against like a Leeds or like a Newcastle, these certain types of playing teams. He can come in and then he's man of the match somehow, and he's like looking like an amazing player. I think he's got his place in that.
But that's what makes him worthwhile to have. So he can go in those types of games. And the fact is, when you look at McTominay, I don't know what he does in the training pitch that makes him so revered as this defensive midfielder. But when I see him progress up the pitch and make those late runs, like old school Frank Lampard, this, that, and the other, I think that's when he's at his best. Because you can see him when he runs in on that box and he tries to shoot. He's got great technique. He's got a great striking technique. That's where he tends to get all his goals from. That's where he seems to make a difference when he's higher up that pitch. I don't think he has that danger sense in his mind when it's none of it. I think he's too reliant on being all action with Fred. And Fred is the same. And I'm not going to criticize because I think actually Fred under Ten Hag will be good. And I think he's going to be important to that system. I don't think he'll be the defensive midfielder. I think he'll be part of that midfield three, and people are going to have to accept it because ultimately Ten Hag wants the high press. He wants people to basically get that ball back quickly, and he want to counter-attack quickly. Well, Fred with space does do that. He literally harries players to win back the ball. So I'm sorry for the Man United fans who don't like that and they want all these dreamy signings, this, that, and the other. Tough shit. Fred's going to be playing next season, and he's going to be a big player for Ten Hag.
Honest to God, with Fred is the kind of player lots of managers would love. Yeah. Because if you're playing a high pressing system, you want Fred, but you don't want. Thing is, we have him so deep. You know what? Like I don't understand how you've got like if you even saw him in playing what's it called? Playing I think there's like the one game against Man City everyone talks about. He wasn't deep. He was high up the pitch and just nicking the ball off players, and that's what he's good at. He covers a lot of ground, and recently more so he's been able to show that he has actually got a bit of skill in him. Like I hadn't seen it for the past how many seasons, but he's got that bit in him. And I think like he's showing like the good amount of a good. He shows good work rate. He shows good. Like I know we've heard this buzzwords of passion, energy, but like you also do need that as well as technical ability on the pitch. You can't just like you have to play like a Pogba who his work rate is not as high, but he's got great technical ability. But we've seen that he's been outed out of that midfield by Fred McTominay, because you also need that in the modern game. You need a high level of work rate to be able to operate in these midfields. When you've got, like in a Liverpool, you've got Henderson, Fabinho, and then sometimes like Thiago or whoever. These guys move about the pitch ridiculously.
Yeah.
And like you need to be able to compete with that level of work rate. You've got Chelsea, who have Kante, who literally has the work rate of 3 midfielders alone by himself. You need to be able to compete with that and to win a midfield with that. And having a player like Fred does help massively. The only thing I'm scared of is that what Ten Hag also likes is he likes his midfielders comfortable wherever they are. And Fred's inability to be deep, it might be an issue. Granted, it might be, I think it might currently be an issue because of the way we've been set up, as whenever the person that's deepest gets the ball, there is nobody to pass to. There is no movement. There is no options. And I think give Fred a simple pass, he can do a simple pass. I think that's the main thing is going to be for him.
Yeah, and as I said, like the whole triangles, being comfortable on the ball, being press resistant, that's gonna be important. So there is that caveat. One thing I will say is that it does feel like musical statues with Manchester United sometimes when it comes to how they play. And for me, this is where we will see if Ten Hag, if he does get the right acquisitions in, if the actual right players who leave, who won't help him in terms of what he wants, he's gonna need that. There's gonna be a number of players that are going to leave. You know, Cavani is one of them.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty obvious. Jesse Lingard,
he's been gone since last season.
Yeah,
the guy's been championing his hair. He's been gone. Like he's barely played this season. He's contributed nothing to me. So he's been gone for like a year.
It's very questionable. I was on the sort of very defensive side of Cavani in terms of giving him benefit of the doubt, but there only seems to be so many excuses. I think when a player starts saying that they are not fit enough, and the medical team, going against sort of medical teams, and you just like, yeah, whatever, pal, like just go if you're not interested. Lingard, Pogba, I'd be astonished if Paul Pogba stays. I can see him working under a Ten Hag.
I just don't think he should stay anyway.
But yeah, I think. Yeah, I think I do agree. I think for the benefit of Paul Pogba, his career, I think for Manchester United, let's just leave it at that. He came in, he tried. It didn't work for various different reasons. I won't say it's because of him. It's there's a whole host of reasons. But he hasn't been bad for us. He hasn't been bad for us, and he'll go to a PSG, he'll go to a Real Madrid, and he'll enjoy it, or he'll enjoy it until fans start booing him. So maybe the Old Trafford fans booing him, he'll get a taste of what happens at Real Madrid if he doesn't put a decent performance in. So, but sometimes you perhaps just do need that change, and Ronaldo's going to be the interested one. It's going to be really interesting if United get a high-profile striker in, and I just feel like they will. I don't think we're going to be linked to so many Ajax players. I don't think we're actually going to get any Ajax players. If I'm being honest, like this whole Anthony and all that stuff, that's not happening.
Okay.
I generally think that it is what it is. I think Ronaldo might have to stay for another season because we just don't have that striking option. I think if you're Marcus Rashford, I would look at Ten Hag and see it as a blessing in disguise in terms of making him great again. Because look at all the wide players that played under Ten Hag. They've always looked good, and then they've since left. Have they looked as good? Ziyech is skillful, but he hasn't been that same Ziyech of Ajax. He was doing all things. He was literally Jesus as far as people were concerned. What's happened to Neres? So
what has happened to Neres?
So that's so. If I was Rashford, I'd probably have a look at that and not whine, because where does he go if I'm being honest, where does he go? What Arsenal? Is that really a step up in your career? You know, what European clubs are actually looking at Rashford? What are you saying? At PSG? Bayern Munich aren't going to. That's sort of saying like what to replace Mbappe?
Yeah, because
well,
PSG don't operate on intelligence too often because
okay. Well, fair enough. Then maybe Marcus Rashford PSG is something. He's got the fashion, isn't he?
But
he's got the fashion. He'd probably fit in that regard. But Sancho will thrive. He'll thrive in that. Yeah. I think Bruno will be coached to thrive. I think he has the right intentions. Is probably the best word to use. But I don't think he necessarily applies it in the right way. So he does like to chase it down. He does like to harry. He does have the energy and passion, and he's got all the stats to support him. But he does it more on an individual basis. I think Ten Hag will make him more disciplined, and that's another thing that Ten Hag has perhaps shown. In terms of what Ajax are doing in the league, they are more disciplined. I don't think they've had a single red card this season in the league. They've only conceded. I think when I sort of read the stats, that's only 7 goals, possibly a little bit more now, but like 7 goals, under 10 goals either way. That's ridiculous in the league. We're going back to sort of Mourinho, Chelsea days of that type of defensive discipline. That's still really revered. Now, for a guy who's considered attacking, that's incredible defensive record. And these are going to be the things that he's going to have to pick up gradually with the Man United defense. I think he can do it, but they need a defensive midfielder. If Man United don't get a defensive midfielder and a box to box, maybe like a Neves to support it or Tchouaméni or something like that. If they don't get that defensive midfielder, this project is done for the season. Forget this season, write it off. We might finish 4th. Look, Man United probably at its worst will probably finish 4th or 5th anyway. But just write it off. Forget and then hope for the following season that we get a defensive midfielder. If all our eggs in one basket goes into Matic, who supposedly wants to go, then forget it. Forget it. Because Matic is a good defensive midfielder. I think in Italy he could probably do 40, 50 games where it's slower pace. Not in the Prem. But if we're going to rely on him, we're done. We're absolutely done. He's not that same guy from a few years ago. As I said, still up here, still has it in his legs, anyway. But for 25. But yeah, he it's been reported that he's gone. But this wouldn't be the first time.
Oh no, he announced it. He announced it yesterday evening.
Yeah, he announced it. So he probably is gone. But what I'm saying is, it wouldn't be the first time or last time that a United player thinks they're leaving and then they end up in prison FC.
Yeah, true.
So, like, isn't Matt been leaving for like the last 5 years? So Lingard, you know what I mean? There's so many players. Pogba's been leaving for like the last 5 years. So he was leaving when he joined. But so that's the thing. So we have to get a defensive midfielder. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Having Fred supplement it, and I think it makes. If you could get a Declan Rice, great. If you get a Tchouaméni, if you get a Kamara to be a backup squad option, brilliant. But they have to identify it. They have to get. Well, I think Luke Shaw just by luck survives another season, and I think the fact that there's a World Cup year. He's gonna step up. He's gonna step up, and he'll survive. So I think Delo will survive. I think our centre backs will survive. I think the fact that we're losing a striker is kind of going to mean that we're going to push again for forward signings. Z earlier was talking about a winger. I don't think we need a winger. I don't think we need a winger at all.
I think like. A big issue that not many people are talking about this player, and I've heard like some inklings about him, but people have talked about Martial coming back and doing that whole target man role. I do not want to see that whatsoever because no offense to him, the guy, the project with him the projects with him is done. It's absolutely done. Like the guy came in, we thought he's going to be a Ballon d'Or winner. He looks good in Monaco. The guy is now majorly injury prone. Like I think he just got injured today as well.
Honest to God,
like,
I know for a fact. I know for a fact that like people have their excuses of why Van der Beek failed because he doesn't. The Everton don't know how he plays and stuff. And he'll be a key player under Ten Hag, and he probably will be, but he won't be a starter. He'll be a squad player. He will be a squad player because he will see it. He will see it straight away. But Martial, it's kind of like Pogba for me. He's done his part. He's had his time at United. I feel like it just needs to be done now. Is he a good footballer? Yeah, he's had stages. He's had stages. If we lose him, like I recognize his strengths. I do recognize his link-up plays are actually really good. But I just feel like it's just got tired now. I think Man United need a genuine change. I feel like him. I kind of feel like Rashford. I feel like Rashford. Look at Rashford. He looks tired. He looks done. He looks checked out. He needs to sleep. He needs to go to a different club. And I feel like him, Pogba, Lingard, they just need to. They need to go.
They need to go.
They need to go. They obviously the pressures of United has obviously got to a point now. Let him be. Let him land. Let him move on. So for me, that's the thing. But in terms of Sam, because this is obviously like the final segment, but in terms of like incomings or inbounds, who do you want to come in?
So incomings, a goalkeeper, preferably one keeper that I really like is Robert Sanchez at Brighton, because I think no one can say that he's not competent on the ball. You just watch one game of him and you can see that he's good on the ball. You can't be in a Brighton team that everyone is passing the ball around so easily, and you can't be bad on the ball. I think he's a very good shot stopper, because sometimes Brighton are left exposed when they push up too high, and he's had to make some crucial saves and had to sweep at times. But the one thing I am scared of with him sometimes is that he's insane. He'll come out and do something a bit insane. But I think like with keepers, you kind of need that sometimes. I think like it's like a certain amount of like arrogance or something that a keeper will just come out and just do something that's like a bit out there, but it just shows that they've got the confidence to come out and just sweep up and then go on. I think that's actually going to be one of the most important things that we need to get is.
That's quite an interesting left field, because I haven't heard that name being used. I haven't heard with Sanchez. So that's an interesting one. I quite like that. Quite like the thought behind that.
In terms of a defensive midfielder, like I think whether he's going to start or not, Kamara is free. I think that's just a no-brainer. Like you've got a guy that can win the ball very easily. He's decent on the ball. I won't say he's quite good as like a Tchouaméni or other DMs, but I like even as a squad player, you can't like knock him, and he's young. And he'll develop. I really don't understand how that is just not an instant buy option when it's just available even right now to just go and say bring him in. Ruben Neves as well. I've always liked him. He's currently injured now with after I'm pretty sure it was a horror tackle in a game like a few weeks ago. But I think he's very good at his passing ability is going to be very important, and I think having him there, because he also has the ability to change what his role is. So if he needs to sit, he'll sit. If he needs to be a box to box, he'll do a box to box. And I think him doing the different roles will allow other players to like push forward a bit more. So if Kamara sees space and makes a run, he'll just like slot in there and then and keep the formation. In terms of, I don't know with centre backs whatsoever. I honestly have no clue, because a lot of these top centre backs are not available to buy. I've heard about like the Timber from Ajax. I don't see what everyone else sees. I just see another like weak centre back, another Lindelof that's going to get bullied. Because yeah, people are saying like Champions League, he's like done aerial doors and stuff like that, but he's not going up against like you're clicking like the Premier League has like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who is massive. You've got like your Chris Woods, your Weghorsts, like they're just gonna like bully you. Antonio is just gonna like nudge you out of the way. It doesn't matter if you're like the guy's like 5'10", something like that. Like he's just gonna get tossed around. Personally, my favorite centre back, I don't think it will happen because Napoli hate us. Is Koulibaly, because I think he covers a lot of ground. He's also very smart, so he doesn't always have to make recovery tackles. I don't think we're going to get him. So with centre backs, it's really hard. But with the right back, actually, Z actually told me about this guy, and since then I've watched him at Lille, Selic, very good defensively, very competent on the ball, and a really cheap signing. Like no one's really, I think he's got 1 year left. No one's really looking at him that much. Easy signing to make. He'll probably be about 15 mil to 20 mil. No, literally a no-brainer. Striker, I don't know, because it's too expensive. It's too crazy up there.
It's the striker question is going to be difficult. I think this is perhaps where Ronaldo might have to stay, because the thing is, well, I know there's a certain Harry Kane that people
it's not happening
in terms of, well, it's not happening if Spurs will get Champions League, that's for damn sure. So there has to be that consideration, but for me, the strikers are few and far between in terms of ones who can hold up that play, bring in other players, and be that poacher. And for me, actually, that's Ronaldo might have to just be there for another season. I don't. Maybe this is where Martial. I know personally, I just said what I said, but maybe that's where Martial does get that second chance. Maybe, but then we've seen it that he's not that poacher at the same time. When you look at how Haller played, he was there in the box, winning everything with his not only just tap-ins, but he was doing the work. So that's going to be interesting. Well, I know there's been talk about Lewandowski. Is it that Man United keep doing the whole retirement FC with strikers? They get the old striker in. Lewandowski does a season or two, just like how we've done with Ibra, with Ronaldo, with Cavani. Could he? Because well, we can do if you pay enough money. Why not?
If you said Benzema, sure, but I can't not with this guy.
but that's the thing. But midfield, I Neves, I think is that one for me. I think I said Kamara being free, yeah, it makes complete sense. The push and the gossip will always be Declan Rice. I don't think Declan Rice is going to go anywhere.
He doesn't want to come to United anyway.
Yeah. But one thing I will say is once we got that thing in place, if we got that defensive midfield in place, we get a Neves, and Ten Hag has, that time, and the fans have the patience. That's the most important thing, the actual patience. This is where future signings can be really exciting. This is where people like a Jude Bellingham and players like that can look more attractive, a lot more lucrative, and then United can push to those centre back positions and get a key right back. I still think that there is a certain Max Aarons who could perhaps still be looked at. I feel like he's come to a point in his Norwich career where he needs a change, and I think there's going to be
again.
Well, I think he needs to be perhaps snapped up in the same way that Andy Robertson was snapped up from Hull when they got relegated. People sort of laughed at Liverpool when they did it. I was like, why? That's how desperate you are. You're getting relegation. Look at Robertson now. I think Aarons is young. He's going to have a bloody good coach behind him. And he is attacking. He's naturally attacking already. And he's a fullback that will work well with an inverted winger.
Yeah.
Sancho could be a Langer. Do you know what I mean? I think he would actually work perfectly with Sancho personally. But I said it just depends. It depends how you see it.
One player that I think has been considered and I think could potentially do something, because I personally, from what I've seen this season, he's had a very good season on loan, is Brandon Williams as a squad player next season, because he's looked really good against like quite some like top wingers. Like I think I saw him against Liverpool, and he actually did a good job of trying to handle Mo Salah, who's been dangerous, who'd been dangerous all season.
Yeah,
and I think maybe starting to ebb him a bit more into the squad.
No,
is a possible option.
Brandon Williams, for me, my issue with him is that he needs to keep playing. His start at Norwich wasn't particularly great. He's grown into it, and he's become actually one of the better players for Norwich. And he's had a good season. He's had a good season, and you know, for a team who are bottom, he's been one of the highlights. But he has to play. I don't think he can do his bit part role. For Man United, I think it will just mess up personally. But that's just my opinion. But Sam, I think it's probably worth wrapping up there. Guys, it'd be good to get your views on Ten Hag. As I said, for this week coming up, I'll be on the Spaces. He'll be in Spaces. Sam will be in Spaces.
Yeah,
we'll be in lots of different platforms as well, having this type of debate. So it'd be good to get your thoughts on Ten Hag and your inbounds and outbounds and everything like that. Try to make it fairly realistic, because you know a lot of fans want to get rid of the whole squad. That's not going to happen. You just have to accept that. But no, it was really, really good show tonight.
Yeah,
I feel like I said, please follow the socials on the ministries and everything like that. Please hit the like button. It's really, really important to us. And we'll wrap it up there, and we'll see you soon, guys. So take care. All the best.
Take care.